After the crushing victory at Yarmouk, the mighty Roman Empire had been dealt a blow from which it would never fully recover. Hazrat Umar bin Khattab knew that Rome was no longer a serious threat. The Byzantine front was secured, but to the east another empire still stood tall, proud and defiant, the Persian Empire. For centuries, Persia had been a superpower, its king draped in silk and jewels, its armies feared across the world. They had already clashed with the Muslims in smaller encounters, but now Umar understood. The real test lay ahead. If Islam was to survive and spread, the Persian fire must be extinguished. And so the Khalifa turned his attention from the west to the east. But in the west, after the Battle of Yarmouk, the Muslim army under Khalid bin Walid and Abu Ubaidah gained a decisive victory against the Byzantine Empire. Following this, the Muslim advanced and captured Amasa, Homs, Syria peacefully. The Christian population of Amasa actually welcomed the Muslims because they treated them more fairly than the Byzantines. When the news of these victories reached Hazrat Umar bin Khattab, he instructed his commander not to advance further immediately. Instead, he ordered them to consolidate their position, secure Syria, and not to rush deeper into Byzantine territory. Hazrat Umar's strategy was always cautious. He focused on strengthening governance, ensuring supply lines, and maintaining stability before moving to the next stage of conquest. Roman Empire was not a threat now, but in the east, Persian Empire was threat. So Umar bin Khattab turned his gaze from Syria to Iraq. The Persians had already tested the Muslim in earlier battles, sometimes winning, sometimes retreating. But now the time had come for a decisive clash. When the time came to face Persia, many companions thought Hazrat Umar would once again rely on Khalid bin Walid, the undefeated sword of Allah. But Umar made a deliberate decision. The Ummah must not depend on one man. If Khalid always led, no other commander would grow. So this time, Umar looked for someone else. Hazrat Umar knew if the Muslims were to confront them, an army unlike any before had to be raised. From Medina, Umar sent out messengers across Arabia, from Makkah to Taif, from Yemen to Najd, from Bedouin tribes scattered in the deserts. The call went out, come forward for the cause of Allah, for the time has come to face the Persians. Slowly, men began arriving in Medina. Veterans of Badr, Uhud and Khandaq came, scared but unbroken. Young men from newly converted tribes came, eager to prove their faith. Families bid farewell to sons, fathers and brothers who would likely never return. But Umar knew the greatest question was not the size of army, it was the choice of the commander. Many people thought Khalid bin Walid would be the obvious choice. His name struck terror across empires. Yet Umar with his deep foresight made a decision that stunned many. He said, by Allah, we must not tie the victory of Islam to one man alone. If Khalid falls, will Islam fall with him? No. We must raise leaders from among the companions so that Ummah depends on Allah, not Khalid. At that very time, Saad bin Abi Waqqas, one of the earliest Muslims, quietly gathered around 1,000 men and prepared to march toward Iraq, even before the larger army was fully organized. This move caught Umar's eye. He was a man who had not waited for orders, but who understood the urgency and stepped forward. Saad bin Abi Waqqas was not ordinary soldier. He was the Prophet's close companion, one of the 10 promised paradise, and the first man to shoot an arrow in the defense of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ himself had once prayed for Saad, O Allah, make his arrows shift and his aim true. When Umar saw Saad already leading a small force, already trusted by the man, his decision became clear. He summoned Saad and said to him, O Saad, I appoint you over this army. Do not let your lineage to the Prophet ﷺ deceive you. For in the sight of Allah, no relation save a man except taqwa. Lead them with justice, humility, and sincerity. Remember, your soldiers will watch your character more than your sword. With Saad's appointment as commander, Umar Radhiyallahu anhu continued building the army. Reinforcements kept arriving until the Muslim force swelled to nearly 30,000 men. Saad organized them into disciplined ranks, drawing from the veteran of earlier battle to guide the newer recruits. Finally, when the preparations were complete, the army began its march eastward. As they left Medina, Umar Radhiyallahu anhu himself walked beside them, instructing and reminding them, weeping at the thought of the danger ahead, but firm in his faith that Allah's promise was true. Thus, what began as 1,000 men under Saad's initiative became the army that would shape the very foundation of the Persian Empire at Qadsiyah. But wait, let's go back. Why didn't the Khalifa of Islam himself join the battle and lead the army? This was the question whispered across Arabia when the drums of war against Persia began to beat. Umar bin Khattab was no ordinary leader. He was a warrior of Badr, a commander at Uhud, a man who had marched side by side with the messenger of Allah. If ever there was Khalifa who could lead from the front, it was Umar, and indeed Umar wanted to. When the threat of Persia loomed, he thought of leaving Medina and leading the army with his own hands. His presence, his voice, his sword, it would have struck terror into the heart of Persian and given courage to the Muslim soldier. But here lay the danger. The companions and advisors around him, especially Abdurrahman bin Auf and others, strongly opposed the idea. They reminded him, "O Amirul Mu'mineen, if you go and the Muslims are defeated, the entire Ummah will collapse. You are the leader of all Muslims. Your place is in Medina, holding the center, guiding the armies and protecting Islam from within. If you are killed, the unity of Islam will be lost." Hazrat Umar listened. His wisdom was greater than his pride. He realized that Islam was no longer a small community like in the days of Badr or Uhud. Now it was a vast empire stretching across Arabia and Syria. The Khalifa was not just a commander, he was beating heart of Ummah. If he fell, chaos would follow. So Umar made his hard choice. He would not go to Qadsiyah himself. Instead, he appointed Saad bin Abi Waqqas as the supreme commander. Saad bin Abi Waqqas set out from Arabia with an army of 30,000 men marching toward the heart of the Persian Empire. Following the orders of Khalifa Umar bin Khattab, he carefully chose position where the desert lands of Arabia were behind them and the Persian Empire stretched ahead, a location that gave the Muslim both security and courage. So they chose Qadsiyah. But before the battle, Umar had given Hazrat Saad strict instruction. Do not raise the sword until you invite them to Islam, just as the messenger of Allah, Hazrat Muhammad, always did. As per the Khalifa's instruction, the Muslim envoys marched straight into the grand palace of Ctesiphon, standing unshaken before the throne of Yazdigar, the mighty Persian king. Startled by their boldness, Yazdigar demanded, "Why have you come here? What gain is there in war between us?" One companion answered the unflinching courage, "We carry the message of Allah and His Messenger. Accept Islam or pay the jizya tax. Refuse and the sword will decide." The Persian court froze in disbelief. Desert Arabs standing in the very heart of their empire and speaking with such defiance. Unimaginable. Yazdigar's fury erupted. He rose from his throne and thundered, "Go gather your army, for I will unleash the full might of Persian upon you. My greatest general Rustam will grind you into the dust at Qadsiyah." To insult the Muslims further, the king called for a basket of Persian soil, placing it on the head of a companion. But after the envoys departed, an uneasy silence filled the court. One of the king's astrologers stepped forward and warned, "O king, this is no humiliation. The man who carried that soil has in truth carried Iraq itself. Meanwhile, in Medina, news of these threats reached Umar bin Khattab. The Khalifa wrote immediately to Saad, "Send me a complete map of Qadsiyah. I want to know every corner of the battlefield as though I stand there myself." Saad obeyed. Umar's strategy was clear. He would direct the war step by step from the capital, following every move as if the clash were before his eyes. At the same time, Hazrat Umar sent fresh instruction to Abu Ubaidah in Syria, reminding him of the troop once commanded by Khalid bin Walid in Iraq, and ordered that these reinforcements be dispatched to Qadsiyah. Saad bin Abi Waqqas faced a challenge beyond the battlefield: how to keep the Khalifa in Medina informed and how to coordinate with the Muslim forces in Syria under Abu Ubaidah. Saad himself was ill at the time, suffering from a painful disease in his back that forced him to command from a rooftop. Unable to ride for long, but his mind was sharp and his sense of responsibility unmatched. He knew that Umar in Medina would be pacing anxiously, praying day and night, waiting for news. So Saad established a messenger system. Riders were stationed at intervals all the way from Qadsiyah to Medina like a chain of rally. A courier would gallop from the battlefield to the next port, deliver the update, and another rider would immediately carry it forward like passing a torch in a relay race. In this way, news of every day's fighting reached Umar in a matter of days, not weeks. At the same time, Saad coordinated with Abu Ubaidah, commander of the Syrian front. If Persia tried to call for help from the remnants of Romans, the Muslims in Syria would be ready. Messenger flowed back and forth, Qadsiyah to Syria, Syria to Medina, and Medina back to battlefield. The system meant that while Saad commanded the army in Iraq, Umar commanded the war itself from Medina. The Khalifa would send back instruction, dua and advice, which arrived as the soldiers were still fighting. It was as if the heart of the Ummah beat in Medina, but its arms were stretching across Syria and Iraq, striking in unison. And so, before a single sword was drawn at Qadsiyah, the Muslim had already achieved something extraordinary, a network of discipline, faith, communication that the Persians with all their power could never imagine. For 3 long months, both the Muslim and Persian armies faced each other at Qadsiyah without launching a strike, as the Muslims, learning from earlier experience, knew the deadly risk of crossing the river that separated them. This tense standoff created an atmosphere of suspense, with both sides waiting for the other to make a move, until the eventual outbreak of the decisive confrontation. November 16, 636, before dawn, Rustam, commander of the Persian army, made his move. On his order, a canal was filled and turned into a road. With this, the entire Persian force, 60,000 strong, crossed over ready to battle. Rustam himself wore 2 full suits of armor, determined to crush Muslims once and for all. Across the plain, 30,000 Muslim soldiers stood firm under the command of Saad bin Abi Waqqas. From his command post, Saad addressed the man with words meant to steal their heart. "The land is your inheritance, promised to you by Allah." The two armies stood brave, 500 meters apart. Silence hung in the air until the duel began. Champions from both sides stepped forward. Sword clashed, lances pierced, and blood stained the battlefield. Each duel was meant to break the enemy spirit. Both Muslim and Persian lost many brave fighters in these brutal encounters. As the war finally began, Saad bin Abi Waqqas made a crucial decision to stop sending regular messages to Medina, declaring that from this point onward, everything would be decided on the battlefield itself, and the outcome of Qadsiyah would speak louder than any report. He ordered his left wing to advance against the Muslim right. A storm of arrows filled the sky, followed by the thunder of Persian war elephant charging forward. The massive beast terrified the horses, and the Muslim right began to falter. Before this battle, the Muslim had never seen war elephant, and their sudden appearance on the battlefield left them shocked and unprepared for the chaos these massive beasts could cause. Hazrat Saad sent urgent orders. Archers were to target the riders atop the elephant. Saad quickly sent reinforcements. Al-Qais led an army regiment that struck the Persian flank, while Zohra bin Hawaya reinforced the Muslim right with infantry under Hamal bin Malik. The counterattack worked. Trapped from front and side, the Persian left wing broke and fell back. Furious, Rustam hurled his right wing and center forward, once again led by Elephant. This time the Muslims' left flank was struck with full force, their army almost collapsing under the pressure. At that critical moment, Saad turned to Asim bin Amr with one urgent order: bring down the elephants. The moment had come. The Muslims launched a counter-attack across the line. The Persian right and center staggered and fell back. By late afternoon, both armies were blooded and exhausted, but Saad gave final command. He unleashed the army in swift charges and retreats, the famous tactic designed to tear gaps in the enemy rank and keep the Persian under constant pressure. Day 2. On the second day, November 17th, the battle began the same way as before, the single duels, fighting to weaken the enemy's morale. Around midday, reinforcement finally arrived for the Muslims from Syria. The first to reach the battlefield was Al-Qaqa bin Amr, one of the boldest commanders of Islam. He came with only a small advance guard, but he divided his men into groups and sent them forward one after another, making it seem as though a huge new army had joined the fight. This clever trick shook the confidence of the Persians. Seeing this, Rustam ordered a full-scale attack on Muslim line. Fierce fighting raged across the field. During this clash, Qaqa is said to have killed Bahman Jaduya, the same Persian general who had once defeated the Muslim at the Battle of the Bridge. Unlike the first day, no elephants were used by the Persians, so Saad saw a chance to press forward. He ordered a general Muslim attack and all four corps surged against the Persian front. The Persian resisted bravely, but Qaqa used bold tactic. He disguised camels with cloth and armor to make them like strange beasts. When these monsters advanced, the Persian horses panicked and bolted, leaving their army scattered and their infantry exposed. Saad quickly ordered the Muslims to strike harder. Qaqa, now acting almost as field commander, led a group of dual fighters, many of them veterans of Yarmouk, straight at Rustam's position. Rustam himself rode out and tried to rally his troops, leading a personal counterattack. The fighting was intense, but neither side could break through. As night fell, both armies pulled back to their camp, exhausted, preparing for the third day. Day 3. On the third day, Rustam ordered his elephant to the front once again, and this time they caused even greater destruction among the Muslims. The elephant pushed deep into their lines and chaos spread. Horses panicked at the sight of the beasts, breaking the Muslim formation. Saad bin Abi Waqas, who was directing the battle from his rooftop command post due to illness, realized that the elephant were the key to the Persian strength. He instructed the Muslim warrior to specially target the elephant eyes and the men controlling them. Brave companions like Qaqa bin Amr and others advanced with spears, managing to blind some of the elephant, which caused them to panic and trample their own men. Slowly, the Muslims began to neutralize the threat, and by the end of the day, most of the elephants were killed or driven away. They lifted Muslim morale and balanced the battlefield once again. Day 4. The sun rose over the plain of Qadsiyah, its lighting piercing through the dust and smoke of 3 days of brutal fighting. Both armies stood exhausted yet unbroken. On one side, the Persian, commanded by Rustam, still had their elephants and heavy army lined up for one last desperate push. On the other side, Saad bin Abi Waqas, still confined to his rooftop due to illness, ordered his men to prepare for the final all-out clash. He knew this day would decide the fate of Persia. Rustam, the Persian general, mounted on his throne-like platform behind the lines, urged his soldiers to fight to the death. He reminded them that the Persian Empire's survival rested on this day. His word inspired many, and once again the elephants were brought forward to break the Muslim rank. But this time, the Muslims were ready. They had learned from the previous days that the elephants were the core of Persian strength. On the third day, Saad ordered the archer and infantry specially target the elephant eyes, and similarly on the fourth day as well. Others were instructed to cut the straps of the wooden tower on the elephant back. The Muslim also used a brilliant psychological trick. Some camel were dressed in strange covering. As arrows rained down, many elephants were blind, panicked, and trampled their own soldiers. The Persian lines began to break. Without the elephant to shield, the heavy Persian army and suddenly looked vulnerable. The Muslim cheered, sensing that victory was near. Amidst the chaos, Rustam was struck by fate. As the fighting raged, a Muslim warrior named Hilal bin Khulafa managed to slip through the lines. He spotted Rustam sitting on his throne, shielded by soldiers. A sudden blow of chance occurred when a strong gust of wind overturned Rustam's tent and throne. Rustam tried to escape, but Hilal caught him and struck him down. The Persian commander fell, and with him the spirit of the Persian army also collapsed. When the news spread that Rustam was dead, panic spread through the Persian ranks. Soldiers who had fought bravely for 3 days now began to flee. Some tried to cross the river behind them, but drowned in the rush. Others were cut down where they stood. The Persian army, once feared across the world, was broken. From his rooftop, Saad bin Abi Waqqas saw the battlefield clear. After 4 days of fierce fighting, the thousands of dead bodies on both sides, the Muslim stood victorious. He praised Allah and declared that the Persian Empire back had been broken at Qadsiyah. Back in Medina, Hazrat Umar was deeply worried about the outcome of Qadsiyah. Every day he would walk far outside the city and sit by the roadside leading from Iraq, waiting restlessly for any messenger to arrive. The people of Medina often saw their Khalifa pacing, praying, and looking into distance, his heart tied to the battlefield where the fate of Islam against the Persian Empire was being decided. When the battlefield ended in a decisive Muslim victory, Hazrat Saad sent a messenger, a young man named Abu Mahajan, to Medina. The messenger rode day and night until he reached Medina. Hazrat Umar was as usual sitting by the roadside outside the city waiting with a heart full of prayers. When the rider appeared from afar, Umar immediately rushed toward him, unable to contain his anxiety. As soon as the messenger shouted, "Allah has granted us victory, Rustam is dead, and the Persian army has been crushed," Hazrat Umar fell to the ground in prostration, tears streaming down his face. He then stood up, raised his hand to the sky, and praised Allah with a trembling voice. Soon after, the news spread across Medina, and people came out from their homes rejoicing. The street filled with takbirat, Allahu Akbar, and the atmosphere of the city turned into one of the gratitude and celebration for the great victory that changed the destiny of the Muslims Ummah. The dust of Qadsiyah had finally settled. Rustam, the mighty general of Persia, was no more, and the empire that once shook the world had begun to tremble before the banner of Islam. In Medina, Hazrat Umar fell into sajda upon hearing the news, thanking Allah for the victory, not for power or land, but for the rise of truth over injustice. This was not just a battle, it was the turning point of history. If you felt the power of this story, make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel.